Israel drawing closer to striking Iran's nuclear program, plus new reports that the U.S. wants to revive that disastrous Iran nuclear deal. Get all the breaking details next. Hey folks, Erick Stackelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman newscast. We've been reporting here over the past week and a half or so that top Israeli military and defense officials are increasingly sounding the alarm about a potential Israeli strike against Iran's nuclear program. Not only that, a looming multi-front war against Iran and its proxies, as we reported on Tuesday here on the newscast. Right now, Israel is in the midst of a 2-week major military drill involving all branches of the Israel Defense Forces, and yes, they are preparing, simulating during these drills, a multi-front war, meaning Israel not only going toe-to-toe with Hezbollah to the north and various Iranian militias in Syria and Iraq, but also Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad to the south in Gaza, and the Houthis further south in Yemen. I call this the Iranian Ring of Fire. These are Iranian proxies, one and all, surrounding Israel on all sides. And the Israel Defense Forces, as I speak, are preparing for the possibility, the very near possibility, that Iran could choose to ignite this ring of fire in the very near future. And part of this 2-week military drill called Firm Hand, that's the name that Israel has given this drill, are deep bombing runs, practicing, the Israeli Air Force practicing deep bombing runs. No doubt, deep bombing runs means targeting Iran's nuclear facilities. Now, along those lines, over the past week and a half or so, as I mentioned, we've had comments, strong statements, I should say, by the head of the Israel Defense Forces, Herzi Halevi, and also Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, both saying, essentially, that Iran's nuclear program is reaching the point of no return, and we, Israel, are reaching the point where we must act preemptively to eliminate that existential threat to the world's one and only Jewish state. Well, Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, made more important remarks on that end today that I want to share with you. Also, is the Biden White House, and I don't think, sadly, this will surprise anyone watching if you're a regular viewer of the Watchman newscast, but is the Biden White House looking to revive that Iran nuclear deal, despite continuing attacks by Iran and its proxies against U.S. forces in the Middle East, despite Iran brutally cracking down on protesters in the streets? Despite all of that, is the U.S. still looking to revive that disastrous deal? We will break it down in a minute with new details. Before we do, just a quick reminder to subscribe to the Watchman News channel right here on YouTube and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Folks, we are coming to you every day, Monday through Friday, and many times on Saturday, with breaking commentaries and news updates on what's unfolding right now, the prophetic real-time events unfolding right now in the world's most volatile and strategic region, the Middle East, and why it impacts you no matter where you live. And we're not just talking Middle East, we're talking China, Russia, what's happening in the U.S., the West right now, the Great Reset and that sinister agenda, and much more. But many times and oftentimes we come back to, again, the most strategic region in the world, the lands of the Bible, the Middle East. And that's what we're focusing on today. Now, Yoav Gallant, as I mentioned a minute ago, gave remarks today. He was at a ceremony for the Israel Defense Forces, and Gallant said, look, Iran, and I'm quoting him directly here, the threat from Iran, not only the nuclear threat, but in general, Iran and its proxies, the ring of fire that surrounds Israel, he said the threat is, quote, intensifying, and Israel is reaching the point where it may be forced, in his words, to fulfill its duty to defend the nation of Israel and the future existence of the Jewish people. Meaning, look, we're reaching the point of no return, And we, Israel, we're not going to allow the Iranian regime, a diabolical, genocidal, apocalyptic regime devoted to our destruction, to acquire the very weapons that would enable them to make that goal a reality. We're not going to allow it. And anyone in the world watching right now who has thought over the years that Israel is just bluffing and they're not really going to take action against Iran. Iran is too hard of a target for the Israel Defense Forces. You've got another thing coming. We've had, again, the Chief of Staff for the IDF, Yoav Gallant now, the Defense Minister, and of course the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, again and again in recent weeks and months have said, they've put the world on notice, in essence, and they have said, we are not going to allow this to happen. And I thought Gallant's comments were very interesting. He said, look, we have a duty to protect the existence of Israel and the survival of the Jewish people. A duty, and they consider that a sacred duty. A commentator a few years ago made what I considered a very accurate description of the whole situation with Iran's nuclear program. He said it's like the Cuban Missile Crisis in slow motion. Now, if you remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, the early 1960s, lasted for about 13 days of massive tension. The U.S. and the Soviet Union, of course, on the brink of nuclear war. Khrushchev blinked, as they say, and the rest is history. There were warnings, urgent warnings, way back in 2002, 2003. On Capitol Hill, in Israel, and beyond, about the looming possibility of a nuclear Iran. And yet this thing has continued. And one thing, in terms of stretching this out more, has been the Iran nuclear deal in 2015. Now that was, think about it, the negotiations went on between the Obama administration and the Iranian regime for a few years there, from at least 2012 to 2015. In 2015, that deal, sadly, was signed. President Trump pulled out of it nearly 3 years later in May 2018. But you had a period there which brought things, slowed things down and brought things to a bit of a halt. Iran didn't halt its drive for the bomb, but it stretched this out even more. And folks, rest assured, if the Iranian regime can get another deal similar to what it had in 2015, which allowed it to play out the clock and allowed it mainly, most importantly from their perspective, to just profit from billions of dollars, a massive financial windfall, hundreds of billions of dollars in sanctions relief provided to the Iranian regime by the United States and Europe. If Iran can get that again, they'll take it. Look, a key point here for the boy who cried wolf crowd, the Iranian regime is very, very patient. They have a long-term strategy. I mentioned the other day, I'll mention it again in case you missed it. And again, if you missed any of our newscasts, just go to our homepage, boom, right there under in our archives under newscasts. You can check out any newscast that you missed. But Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, released a book a few years ago called Palestine, in which he said Israel only has 25 years left of existence before it's eliminated from the map. Now, he wrote that, I believe, about 5 years ago, so the timetable has now been compressed in his view. The God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has something different to say about that. Israel is going nowhere, and the Word of God is very clear about that, so don't fret. Be encouraged. Israel, the nation of Israel, the people of Israel are in the land that God gave them to stay. But Israel observes the situation and they take account of it. And the Israeli leaders say, what's worse? To strike Iran's nuclear facilities, to have a massive battle against Hezbollah and Hamas and Iran, in which, by the way, Israel perhaps decisively defeats Hezbollah and Hamas and their like, the other proxies, and eliminates them as a threat, and, obviously takes missiles, rockets in return, a nasty, nasty conflict. Is that where an international condemnation, weeping and gnashing of teeth and wailing and howling at Israel for defending itself, is that worse, Israeli leaders say, than allowing the Iranian regime to acquire the bomb and having a nuclear sword over our head at all times, never knowing when the bomb could drop, quite frankly? And look, some 70% at least of the Israeli population lives in and around the Tel Aviv metropolitan area along the Mediterranean coast, and it provides also a nuclear Iran, a nuclear umbrella for the proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas. It sparks a nuclear arms race in the region. The horrible possibilities are endless. So when Israel weighs those two options, they say, it's not going to be pretty, but the better option for our existence as a nation and a people is to preemptively strike Iran's nuclear facilities. Now, I believe the Biden administration, as we close here, has a different take, and we have reports from Axios over the past few days that the Biden administration is looking to revive nuclear talks with Iran. Surprise, surprise, folks. I've been warning you over the months here on the newscast that this was going to happen. Over the past 9 months or so, those talks between the Biden administration and Iran have been shelved. Now the Biden administration reportedly is seeking to use the nation of Oman, tiny Persian Gulf nation, as a mediator between Iran and the U.S. to jumpstart new talks. Now, the administration in D.C. has reportedly been saying, well, maybe it's more of a partial version of the Iran nuclear deal where Iran temporarily stops enriching uranium. Folks, whatever it is, it's going to be bad. I can tell you that, because this regime in Tehran is not negotiating in good faith. And the Biden administration is approaching these talks from a position of weakness. The U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria have been attacked at least 80 times by Iran and its proxies since Biden took office in January 2021. The U.S. has responded to those 80 attacks exactly 3 times. So a position of weakness, no doubt, where Iran on a daily basis is threatening the U.S., threatening to attack former U.S. officials on American soil. The list goes on, and yet the Biden administration still is coming hat in hand to the mullahs in Tehran looking for a new deal, reportedly. We'll have much more on that in the days to come, I am sure. In the meantime, thanks so much for joining us here today on the Watchman Newscast. Until tomorrow, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.